Thank you everyone for coming in today. Today's prestigious Power Hour, Keep It Real, will be hosted by me, Kalin, and the Reelarc team. What makes a reel highly effective for you?
From my perspective, a reel has to show a few things. It has to be cohesive. It has to show that, once your reps are pushing you onto the next level, they have to trust that you're going to bring a certain quality into the room. It has to be of high enough quality to get out of the way so that I can actually focus on your acting. I know here at Prestigious that you like to shy away from the title cards and things like that and just get to the action. That's what it is. It's your calling card. It's like, what can you do immediately? Casting needs to know that if they swing the camera on you for your co-star or guest star, that you're going to be able to provide something that's real, that's cohesive and professional, so they can bring it back around to the leads until you start getting those roles, those lead roles. So that's essentially what your reel is. It's supposed to show, okay, I can give you this quality, I can give you this quality, I can get you this quality, and then move out of their field of view as quickly as possible, right? Show excellence and then let them do their job.
It's the conversation always goes back to brand. And brand sometimes can sound like a dirty word in nowadays, but really what we're talking about is the actor's marketability. A lot of these casting directors, like Steven said, want to know that they can take you and transplant you in a very specific role.
So for talents who just started and don't have that kind of footage, what should they think about when building their brand and their reel?
So if you're just getting started in the industry, not thinking about brand at the beginning, even a little bit, is like starting a conversation, but then not saying anything. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You're not going to get a lot of response from anyone. So crafting a really good starting point is the focus of these scenes. Well, what are your characteristics that you can say about yourself all the time, right? And then how do we translate that into a scene so that at least you have a starting point, you have a strong conversation opener with your career. Now, as I said, it's a conversation. So the industry is going to tell you things about how it perceives you. So your brand can grow over time, but you want to at least start with something that you feel like could be a strong through line throughout your career. If we think about some famous actors, if I say, like Tony Leung, for instance, he's known for his subtle and nuanced performances. Now he's growing into this space where he also is adding authoritative to his brand. You've got people like Aubrey Plaza, who's now currently in a rebrand process. She's trying to figure out, okay, you knew I can do deadpan, dry, offbeat, and absurd. Now will you accept me doing these new things? So she's trying to say, I am changing my brand, I am growing my brand. Are you going to come along? So it's very interesting to watch this happen in real time. If I say Ryan Reynolds, everybody has a feeling immediately when I say that name. I don't even have to say that he's quick-witted, sarcastic, humorous, right? You guys all get it immediately. So what are those things about you that are just innate? What are your strengths? What are the thoughts that come to mind immediately? And that's what we're trying to craft. That is the highest form of what we do, not just shooting scenes, but when I say Eric Park, what do I think?
I also heard you have a service where you think about brands in more depth. I believe it's called Brand Identity Optimizer.
Right.
Could you elaborate more on that?
If you come to us and get scenes, you're going to be set up with a creative kickoff with a writer. That writer is going to ask you a lot of questions about where you see yourself in the industry, where you see your brand, what characteristics, adjectives can you lean into for the scenes. You're going to get that no matter what. But if you want to take a deeper dive and you want to have like a document that's going to sort of sustain you for the first steps into your career, that's what the Brand Identity Optimizer is for. It's a much more in-depth, multi-hour process with me, and you also have some writing on the side. So it's almost a little bit like a sliver of the artist's way where you have to do a little bit of deep diving. So if you're ready for that kind of work, it's a really great thing. And the first thing is self-knowledge, right? So we have you write about, I ask you an adjective situation, you come down to the adjectives that you want to explore more. Then I have you write about those adjectives before our second meeting. Then from those, we talk about self-expression, right? Okay, so I have all this writing, I am this. What are a few things I can say at a cocktail party to someone who's like, okay, I'm a big director, I have a job you might be right for, what's your thing? What do you bring to the table? What do you sell? And I found that most actors, when asked, what do you sell, what do you bring to the table, they have no idea what words to use. So that's why in this Brand Identity Optimizer, we really focus on the words that you can use the pitch, essentially, like Kim was saying, that you can use in a crunch time when it's time to really show and help people get it. That's the whole idea. We're helping other people get it quickly. And then consistency. So then you can take the brand book that you're going to have and you're going to look at the next roles that you get. And you're going to say, okay, I know all these things about myself. How can I add these things or bring these things to the characters that I play without getting in the way of the story, of course, that can create a through line with consistency and therefore build trust in your brand and eliminate confusion, which is what we're really trying to do.
A lot of our clients are now going through this brand identity optimizer. And again, it's not about anointing you with a brand, which there's a lot of, acting gurus out there that do that. They anoint you with like, I see you do this. I see you do this. With Steven, it's truly work on finding all the words that you need to be able to describe yourself. It's not about anointing you with a brand. It's about figuring out together what it is that you bring to the table and, leaving with that brand book that is kind of like a reference for your career at the beginning is so powerful as you move through creating your media, your websites and all that. So we really like this top-down approach and what Steven has built here with the brand identity optimizer.
And in the meantime, we'll show you an example.
Why the hell are you with this guy anyway?
I don't know. There aren't a lot of options in this town.
Yeah, he shouldn't even be a choice for you to begin with. You're crazy out of his league, and he's stupid insecure about it. Also, he's just stupid.
Gee, tell me how you really feel.
You're the one that brought him up.
You're right. You're right. Go ahead.
Just because the guy has a 401k doesn't mean he's good enough for you.
You know about 401ks?
I know about a lot of things.
Really? So, then who is good enough for me?
No, that's for you to figure out. You set the bar. Figure out who can jump in, and once you know who you want, just go and get it. He'll be there. I gotta get back to work.
He's got this shy introvert quality that we wanted to work with. It's something that he does quite well. I brought up Tony Leung before. There is sort of like a subtlety to his acting as well. It's something that I thought during some of the takes while shooting Jimmy's scene. There's like a nuanced quality to it, a little eyebrow raise here, a little look. You can truly see what's going on behind the eyes. So the introvert, little cerebral, shy, but also at times a little impulsive. He does have the ability to kind of like take that chance, right, and follow that impulse. So we really wanted to highlight that. So we put somebody who is extrovert, probably has an easier time dealing with social situations. It's something that Pearl was fantastic at, that extrovert quality. She's always with a smile. You guys know her personally, so you know what I'm talking about. But she's playful, and we also gave her a pragmatic quality, which I think actually even holds on even into her personal life. It seems like she's a pragmatic person, but she brought that pragmatism, that playfulness, and that extrovert quality to the role. So now you have two very specific things to work with, as opposed to just dull gray confusion, right? And here's a scene where people are saying lines at each other.
It's wonderful to see when scenes work. It's just, it does start with that top down, understanding brand, and it just all comes together that way, which is really great.
Do you think we're ready for activity time?
Yeah. Do we have a brave actor out there
a brave soul?
A brave soul. All right, perfect. So we're gonna put you in a scene together. I don't know what's gonna happen, but we're gonna go for it.
Okay.
Let's just go through these adjectives here really quickly. Some of these are different from the ones I go over in the thing. I picked a few new adjectives. So let's try it. Would you say you're active? Do you sell activeness? Active. Yeah. You say yes. If it was one of your top three, would it be one of your top three?
That's tough.
Yeah. Okay. So ambitious.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I would put that in my top three.
Ambitious is top three. Great.
I initially started with corporate because I come from the corporate world.
This is great. Already we're so you're saying ambitious is one that you would put on the list.
Yeah, I suppose so.
This is what happens. I've never done this with two people, by the way, so this is kind of interesting and fun. But with Janet, already I'm learning, okay, she comes from the corporate world. That's something that I'm probably going to use later on when it comes time to create the scene. Assertive, being outgoing and confident. Is it your brand? Is it a defining feature that you could say?
Assertive, yes, but I was never that really aggressive corporate type.
Great. So let's leave that out. What about you, Douglas?
I would say maybe not assertive, but I would say maybe social.
Creative, someone who can make up things easily or think of new things. Do you sell that?
Well, being an actor, we're creatives.
For the use of a story, the qualities that you have as you can be an actor and still approach things very analytically. Right?
Yeah, I'd say I'm more on the analytical side,
More on the
especially coming
analytical
from the corporate world and all of that.
Again, corporate world keeps popping up. Janet,
Yeah.
corporate. Perfect.
All I'm seeing is now stories for Janet. It's just like all popping, just like
So far,
stories and
yeah,
stories.
but then
Yeah.
also, maybe to draw a sort of comparison, Douglas has a creative, Janet is more analytical. So now we're trying to figure these things out. Curious, always wanting to know things.
Yes. Yeah. And I feel like that kind of goes in line with the last one where I tend to, when I break a script down, go with kind of off the wall ideas or just throw stuff on the wall to see what fits, even though maybe it doesn't really fit with what the material I have.
In a corporate setting, you're somebody who's thinking of creative ways to solve a problem, and you're meeting a brick wall with the very analytical Janet. So far, so good.
Okay.
Cool.
I mean, I see a conflict, between them two is, if I may, a young journalist and a very serious politician that's been at the game for a very long time. And the young journalist has something hot on on Janet's, I don't know, boss or something. And it's a meeting of, I'm going to leak this thing. And it's how she deals with this, very capricious young journalist who's taking his,
Right.
something in that nature.
Everything he offers is kind of pushing on all of her insecurities.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that'd be basically the process that we go through. Obviously, I'd go much more in depth with the adjectives. I'd love to go more in depth with you guys, but I don't think we have the time for that. But that's the idea. And then once we start honing in on those specific ones, the top 10, the top 3 even sometimes, then we can start to build a brand around those things. So I spent about 4 hours at least with George over 2 separate sessions. So we came down on high-end boss vibe, top of the food chain. He's serious and selective of what I say. He sells credibility. Whatever he says is gospel. He plays truthful characters that make it count. So we had a little bio, which is fine. And then we brought in a couple of the adjectives and the things that he said about those adjectives. Now this he'll be able to go back to as he gets more roles, and he'll be able to actually see what qualities he can bring to new roles as he moves forward in his career to create some kind of consistency. So the slogans, the things that he said himself, but I just sort of synthesized them together. I won't be the loudest, but I will be the one you should be listening to. He's tolerant, but if you don't give him space, ... Negotiations are like chess. I don't have to be better than your greatest strength. I just have to capitalize on your biggest weakness. 3, he lives with a strong faith. He's the one that you want delivering the bad news. Plus loyalty is a part of that. It's in his DNA. He just has it. That's something that he said. And he also brought up that he's a true fixer, fixer mentality. We're going to figure out how to survive. He doesn't give up. Cowardice is for the spectators. Those are different things that kind of excite the imagination. These were the scene ideas that we ended up coming up with. Bernard is a dangerous character who values efficiency, function, and control. He is confident and takes charge in his business dealings. He is not afraid to take drastic measures to protect his interests. He actually kills the guy in the scene. So now we're still in a place of authority. So if we give this guy a little bit more empathy, he goes therapist. If we give him a little less empathy, he goes a little bit more cutthroat. It actually goes lowest empathy to highest empathy down the line.
The great thing that was created here, and sorry to stop you, Stephen, is that a lot of times when actors come to us, they say, oh, I need a comedy scene, I need a dramatic scene, and I need an action scene. But in all reality, it does start with that brand. You first need to figure out those brand qualities and then insert yourself into those different roles. So sometimes a person's brand doesn't say comedy or drama or whatever. It's really about figuring out who you are and where you fit in different scenarios. And you can always grow from there, but that's how we like to do it. And I think that's what Stephen created, which is so beautiful. It's not about, oh, just show a comedic thing or show a thing. Well, who is it that we're showing? Which I think is laid out really nicely here with that third scene, because it still speaks to that brand, but it's done in a different type of show. Like the top one can be a Breaking Bad, where the third one can be a This Is Us, which is a really cool kind of like contrasting thing to have on your reel.
So these character types, he really enjoyed the Giancarlo Esposito kind of vibe. So he's a dangerous man who values efficiency, function, and control, and deadly force when necessary. The businessman who plays chess, not checkers, that's actually came directly from him. And then the tough love therapist who actually gets the job done. So we have a little bit of a mood board situation to get the imagination going. And then we sum it all up with a pitch. High-end boss vibe, top of the food chain. He's the businessman who plays chess, not checkers, the dangerous gangster who's always in control, and the tough love therapist who gets the job done. So this he's actually going to be able to take with him and kind of, even if he's looking for representation, maybe he might push this onto representation to kind of like get all the questions out of the way for the most part. But the idea is to still leave some room for, you've got an imagination, right? This is working on your imagination, but I don't think it puts them in a box of any kind. I think it's still open and has a quality and a through line for which there is no box.
I also find it interesting because in our last session, we have one of our most booking talents come on Zoom and talk about her audition, like organizing strategy and how she like tracks everything. And she also mentioned about how she's viewed as from the casting's perspective. And she also used adjectives, and she also kind of built her own brand to control her career. So yeah, I found that common ground to be pretty interesting.
So the brand identity, like what is that? I know that you mentioned that that is a little bit different as well.
So it essentially results in that PDF that I showed you. It's a deep dive situation. So it is a lot of like internalizing and figuring things out. And then basically what we're trying to get down to is like, how are you perceived? But then also what actions do you have access to? Everybody just sees what you are. So it's best to have a perspective and to be living your life and to be doing the things that you need to do to start the conversation and be an active member in the casting process, as opposed to just sitting there, pick me mentality. And that's what the brand identity optimizer is all about.